Hey everybody, my name's Kent. I'm lead pastor here at Epic, and I'm so glad that you're doing church with us today.
What's up, Epic?
Yeah, man, so we've been in this series called IRL, where we've been talking about how our digital world has become such a big part of our real life world. It really has.
Totally.
And we've been talking about how to be a disciple or a follower of Jesus in a digital world. And I'm excited today because I actually get to interview a good friend of mine. His name is Rack, and he actually serves as the creative director here at Epic. But before we get into that conversation, I wanted to tell you a little bit about Rack, just from my perspective. Rack's awesome. He's such a cool guy. He's been on staff for the last several months, joined our staff earlier this year, and he's just immediately just clicked and fit with the team. Some of the things I love most about you, Rack, are that you're smart, you work hard, you get stuff done, but I love that even though you work to get stuff done, you never put projects ahead of people. Like, I've seen that happen over and over again. He's always thoughtful about how everybody's feeling, and and that's such an important thing when you're leading a team and trying to get someplace together as a team. So I appreciate that about you. Another thing I appreciate about Rack, this is a fun fact. You showed me where the do not disturb button was on my computer so that my Zoom calls would stop being interrupted all the time. That's a big deal. And I love how positive you are. Like, even when, the pressure's on and it's that moment where things are a little tense, man, just the right thing to say at the right moment to calm everybody down and say, okay, that's the hill. Let's go take that hill. Super creative and just been a big part of what we've been able to do online for the last little bit. And so those of you that are watching right now, man, you have a lot to be thankful for because of this guy and his work over the last several months. And we're better as a team because he's on it.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Blushing.
Now, also, just fun fact, Rack is recently married. And by recent, I mean
super recent.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks, yeah.
Why are you here right now, even talking to me? You should be on a beach.
Well, only because I'm not allowed to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks ago, got married to my wife, Jackie. What's up, Jackie? So exciting, man. What an awesome day. You spend a year planning it, and then it's over so fast. I keep telling her it's a day I wish I could do once a week,
Absolutely.
It's just awesome to have my whole family here.
Now, I think we have a picture that we want to show everybody of your bridal party.
Check out the bridal party. My guys, Brian and Evan, bringing the hair, compensating for my bald head, and got married in my favorite Air Jordan, so that's pretty cool, pretty unique.
Of course, you would get married in sneakers. Big sneakerhead, and if you see any of Rack's stuff on social, you'll know that about him.
Oh yeah.
But it really has been a pleasure getting to know you. I wanted to give you a chance, though, to share a little bit about Jackie.
Yeah.
So your new bride.
My bride.
What's up, married man?
It's awesome. So Jackie has been with me for 10 years now. We built quite a life together, which was made official just 2 weeks ago. Couldn't be happier about that, man. She's a social worker, so she does really awesome work here in Philadelphia with My Sister's Place. It's a Jefferson University facility where she helps drug-addicted women and their children. She gives them a place to live. She helps them get on the right path and does really just amazing work. Her heart is huge, man. Definitely married up.
Yeah, you did marry up. She's awesome. Now, I wanted to do this interview with you, Rack, because I think you have an interesting or unique perspective on some of what we've been talking about for the last several weeks in this series, particularly because of your past experience.
Yeah.
So you actually created a career online, on social. You figured out how to get an income from Instagram, which blows my mind because nobody's paying me nothing to be on Instagram, nothing.
Yeah. But
somehow you figured out how to get an income from that. So tell me, share some of that story. It's really interesting.
Well, by accident, that's how. I was just sharing on social media like everyone else was, the things that were important to me, menswear, fashion, sneakers, comic books, my own art. And I didn't think anyone would really pay attention any more than normal. And then slowly, it really built into quite a big audience, to my surprise. I didn't think anyone would want to see the toys I collect as a 36-year-old man, but it turned out to really blow up. And then on the other end of these apps, the way they really work and the business they're in is in the data that they can provide to the brands. that want to advertise with them. And so that data lets them know a lot about my audience, a scary amount about my audience and the demographics. And so what that does is it leads to a whole marketing strategy called influencer marketing, where they'll put specific product that works with my personal brand and gets in front of my audience, which is generally pretty interested. And the conversion rate on something like that is 1% generally, which doesn't sound like a lot until you consider that there's millions of people looking. And then that success is hugely better than the success of like traditional TV commercial marketing. And so it's created a whole industry that I just kind of fell into.
The power of online,
Yeah.
which in some ways we've been talking about the power of online and digital church even.
Yeah.
You got a whole career out of it.
Yeah.
Recently, I saw your post about Best Buy.
Crazy. So Best Buy gets in touch with me. They're like, we're going to give you 10 minutes on bestbuy.com, add whatever you want to cart. And then all I want you to do is just show how easy and safe it is to use our curbside pickup. Because if you shop online now, you can go to your local Best Buy and they'll bring it right out to your car, and they do it in mass and they safely put it in your back seat for you and everything. So in exchange for showing how easy that was, I got a drone, a camera, electric slider, all kinds of equipment that I'm going to get to do even more creative stuff with. And
You didn't even
it's
call
awesome.
me to ask what I wanted from Best Buy.
I had 10 minutes, I was sweating. I put that drone in right away, though.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, drone.
That's amazing. So the
exciting.
power of online.
Yeah.
I think people would be curious to hear a little bit about your professional career and pathway. You've gotten to do and be part of some really cool things.
Yeah.
I wrote some of them down. I wanted to share real quick that I thought were interesting. LeBron James Warrior hoodie, which I think is pretty awesome. The one you designed.
Yeah.
You threw Iverson's Hall of Fame party. Like you threw that.
Shout out Bubba. Yeah.
You managed that whole thing. Got that going. You have your own Nike sneaker.
That's the coolest thing.
Have your own
That's
Nike
the
sneaker.
coolest thing.
And then I think this is the coolest thing actually. For your birthday, Michael Jordan sent you a birthday present.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about Montel Jordan or, Jordan Sparks. I'm talking Michael Jordan sent you a
Shout out
birthday
to
present.
Jordan Sparks, though.
Yeah. So it's why don't you share a little bit of your professional story?
At the very least, it was stamped with Michael Jordan's signature on the card. But it was a 24-karat gold-plated pair of Air Jordan 1s that are currently my prized possession and will one day probably pay for my kids to go to college.
I bet.
18 years from now, look for that on eBay. But a wonderful gift. My career started in art. So I went to art school for graphic design and animation. I minored in film. That led to a job with the Cartoon Network working on a show called Johnny Bravo, which a lot of people will argue is the coolest part of my career. After that, I started a few businesses and sold them. I was financially independent for a little bit, got to focus on the things that I love, which is when I really dived into men's fashion and design. I'm kind of self-taught in that space, and sharing my own art and stuff on social media built into what we're talking about. From there, I was kind of recognized for what I was doing in the space. Got to run a blog called Kicks on Fire, which at the time, under my tenure, was the largest sneaker blog in the world, which led to me covering the opening of Lapstone and Hammer here in Philadelphia. Shout out to Lapstone on Chestnut Street. We built that over 5 years into like a premier, nationally recognized retailer, and I was doing all of the influencer marketing stuff. And then COVID, and now the church.
Right. So it begs the question: how or why did you end up choosing a pathway to become a creative director at a church?
Yeah.
Like how did that happen? Because that seems on a very different path or trajectory.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always say, and I know you've heard me say it before, you should put your time in the things you love the most. And so that's the first thing. And for a long time, I was a little disillusioned about what it was exactly that I loved the most, And so I loved the lifestyle that being a social media influencer provided me. I loved designing product and interacting with the city through Lapstone and Hammer. But above all, I loved Christ. Above all. And somewhere I lost the focus to give my time to that. And that always weighed heavy on me for sure. On the other end of that was just the pace of that lifestyle. You're constantly chasing the next opportunity. You're essentially a freelancer. And while the money's really good and the opportunities, like you said, are incredible, I once played one-on-one with Dwayne Wade. That's one that wasn't on your list that I'll never forget. At his house, Gabrielle Union made me a grilled cheese I mean, amazing things, right? But you're constantly chasing that 140 flights a year. The strain that puts on your personal relationships, the relationship with my now wife, Jackie, who would have to be responsible for everything that was happening at home as I'm jet setting to go play basketball with Dwayne Wade, you know? And so I was getting tired, morally tired, physically tired, detached. I wasn't able to attend church on a regular basis, which was something that was super important to me, super important to my parents and my upbringing. And you know what it's like to start to feel spiritually empty. And I know I've heard all of our pastors say how important it is to stay plugged in and to stay connected. And that's just impossible to do at that pace. So I was just looking for an off ramp, looking for a way to slow my life down. Again, to focus on the two things that I love the most, my relationship with Christ and my relationship with my wife. And so I had a little bit of a plan for that. I was going to open a store in Nashville. That was my first plan. And that was exciting to everybody around me, everybody in the industry. Oh, Rack's going to open his own store. Imagine what he could do influencing through his own doors. Look what they've done with Lapstone. They wanted me to do it in Nashville, Tennessee, because it's a booming city. Not as cool as Philly, right?
Right.
But not far from Philly. So I got myself a managing partner. I was just going to fly down to Nashville to do big releases and the opening and stuff. I go down to Nashville, right? And I get in with my commercial realtor to go look at some spaces, and he tells me about this Corona and how it's like it's kind of like the flu. It's kind of like getting a bad case of the flu, right?
Yeah.
So I was like so excited about everything that was going on and thinking that this was my future. I was like, yeah, whatever. We found a great space in the Gulch, really cool, hip part of Nashville. I'm totally pumped. I land back in Philadelphia, and it was like the first episode of The Walking Dead, man, when Rick wakes up. Like, where is everybody? In the airport, I almost helped myself to Dunkin' Donuts because I was like, I need a coffee, and I don't know where everybody is. Obviously, it was being taken a lot more seriously here, and obviously it's become as serious as we all know it has. But it gave me a lot of time to think. It stopped that plan dead in its tracks.
Yeah.
And somewhere in there was an email about a job at Epic Church. And I got to think on that for a bit. And it really kind of lined up that it could slow my life down a bit. And we do quite a bit of work to make this church happen. Yeah. So not a ton, but it could slow it down a bit. But it could refocus me. You know, you guys preach about the importance of your relationship with Christ and the relationship with your significant other. And those were the two things that I was looking for the most.
Yeah, I can't imagine. So I've heard you talk about this quite a bit. And one of the things that stood out to me that you've said is how you would have conversations with Jackie about the meaningful work that she's done throughout the day. And then the question would be tossed back to you, and you just hated that.
I hated it, man. I hated it. It weighed on my soul so heavy because, first of all, she'd come home from work, commuting an hour each way to go do this meaningful work, and I'd be in my pajamas working from upstairs sketching on an iPad, so that always made me feel a certain way, right? And then I'd ask her about her day, and she will have saved someone's life or got them housing or spent some time with a sick child or every day is a miracle in her line of work, and I will have tried a neon green lace in my Air Max 95 design, you know, just I had nothing to compete as hard as I tried. And so that would weigh on me too. Just, hey, I want to do important work, shallow work. It's not that stuff wasn't important to me, and it's certainly important to a lot of people, and it certainly has its place in the world, but up against that spiritually rewarding work. And living in a house where that juxtaposition was there every day could really weigh on you, you know?
Yeah, it's important to find meaning in the work that you're doing. And, you know, I'm curious, what specifically about the work that you're doing now has been fulfilling or has been a motivator for you, you know, going forward?
Well, one thing I know that you and I have talked about, and I've always felt it, and I've heard you phrase it in a way I was always looking to, is just being focused on my eternity, right?
Yeah.
Just the idea that, you know, any given time, thousands of people, more people follow me on Instagram that can fit in Wells Fargo, right? So if you think about that, more people watch me day to day than ever sit and watch the Sixers in person, right? That's just crazy to me. It's mind blowing. I don't deserve that. That's insane. But it makes you think, man, God forbid anything ever happened to me. What kind of connection do I really have to these people, to my city, to the people who follow me or look up to me? What have I done of importance or responsibility to be like a good role model, a spiritual mentor. I wanted them to say something more than like, hey, who's getting his sneaker collection? Or you think he's got any of that hoodie he designed in the closet? You know, when I go, I want people to be able to say good things about me. At the very least, we know he was a solid guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was a huge draw. The other end of it is just my love for Philadelphia. I love this city, the opportunities it's given me. Your mission statement is every person in the city. I love how ambitious that is.
Yeah.
That really stood out to me. And I think that we're in a season where the church can really innovate, you know, and I think through that innovation, we have a much better chance, than ever of being accessible and actually reaching every person in the city. So if I could be a part of that, that's huge.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I feel like there's been more innovation in the church in the last 7 months than in the last 7 years.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's slowing down anytime soon. Like, buckle your seatbelt. We're going to keep pushing the ball forward. But what I love about it most is, for the first time ever, our vision is actually possible.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're on this mission to reach every person in the city. And the truth is that when we were just in physical buildings, like, not every person is going to walk through the doors of a church.
Right.
But because of online and the power of online, and because of where it can reach, and it's just one, a click away.
Yeah.
For the first time ever, we really can reach every single person.
Absolutely.
And I love the opportunity to say, okay, yes, when there's the opportunity for us to go back in physical spaces and have church, together again, we're absolutely going to do that. But yes, we're always going to be committed to an online strategy.
Absolutely.
That's going to reach people who would never walk through the doors.
Yeah, online has changed every business I've been a part of, right? So the same shows I worked on in the Cartoon Network, you can now stream on some of the apps for sure, right? The retail business changed forever when it went online. And I remember when we first went online in the retail business, we were selling an expensive pair of jeans at the time. They were like $400 Japanese denim. And I remember our owner,
which I would never,
it takes a special person, but our owner said, no one, we don't even have to bother building this for online, because who would buy jeans like this online without touching them, right? And I hear comments like that in every industry I've ever worked in. Let me tell you, online changes everything. We sell more of those jeans online than ever, because now they're accessible to the people that are really looking for them, whether they're in the city or not. And I feel the same way about Jesus. I feel like it's going to work the same way for the church, that online is going to get out and it's going to be more accessible, and we're going to find real intentional ways to share. It's going to be easier than ever to invite people. And listen, I've seen what it's done for selling Be Like Mike, right? And I'm really excited to see what it'll do for Be Like Christ. I really think it's going to be a huge season for us.
Yeah, I've heard you say this. You talked about how, like over the years, like a long time ago, it's like, oh man, don't listen to too much radio, and don't watch too much TV, and now so could you share a little bit?
I've always said that, right? The new forms of communication, and this is no small communication shift. This is easily the biggest communication shift since the printing press, right? But every generation's got their thing. My parents used to say 1 hour of TV a day, and then their parents would say, hey, a little bit less radio, or whatever. Not my parents aren't that old, but you know what I mean. My grandparents would say a little bit less radio, and their grandparents would say, stay out of that book, or control the books that were in the house. Magazines were the same thing when they became a huge platform. And so I'm not scared of the internet, right? I'm not scared of the access to the internet. And I think it's important to be people who are putting good things out there on the internet, enriching things out there on the internet, and using it for what it's intended, and that's to connect people,
Yeah.
And I think if you embrace that, it's hugely powerful in the way the printing press was.
Yeah, so I remember when we initially pitched the idea for the series, IRL, we have these creative meetings where we talk about the series that are coming and what it's about and all that kind of stuff. Initially, the series was about the dangers or the pitfalls of online, how to avoid those things like the comparison trap and just all kinds of stuff. And you pushed back pretty strongly because you felt that we shouldn't just do a series that pushes people away from online, but actually encourages people to embrace online, but just do it in a better way. Right. Can you talk a little bit about maybe why? Yeah,
first of all, I think this is one of the most important and educational series we've done so far, at least in my time with the church, and I hope we get to do something like this maybe once a year or something like that. I hope you guys have learned as much as I think there was to learn from this series. And I think it's about the idea of the internet's original intent. It's to connect. There's powerful connection tools here. The other end of that is we're about reaching every person in the city or maybe bigger online, right? We can't control the fact that there's people connecting from all over the country, and we love it. All over the
it's
world.
awesome.
It's amazing. But a part of that is by meeting them where they are. And I really believe that, that should be a strategy that every church strives to do. This is normal. People are growing up with social media accounts. I know people who have started social media accounts for their babies that their babies, I guess, will adopt when they're old enough to take their own pictures, and it's becoming very normal. It is real life. That's what this series is all about. And so I want to meet people there, and I want to use it for good, and I want to get great content out on the internet because I think it's very powerful there and it's very easy to share.
Absolutely. What a cool opportunity to be able to meet people where they are and then help them make a connection to God.
Yeah.
And we've said this before, that I think one of the most spiritual things you can do is help people get through a door that they've struggled to get through.
Right.
And for some people, making a connection to God by walking through the doors of a church or just even moving in that direction, because now it's online and it's clickable. It's more accessible and people can explore and take their own steps, and we get to be part of that.
I had a friend actually tell me recently, why he watched online and hadn't visited on location, and I asked him why that was. Was it just because you could, do it in your pajamas on the couch, eating a bowl of cereal? This is how I do Sundays sometimes. He said no. He said, my social anxiety always got the better of me at the door greeters. And I was like, oh, well, maybe this is, maybe this works for you, and maybe through getting comfortable with the church, we'll see it on location. I just think it's a cool tool that way.
That's so cool. Now, in this series, we've talked about the election. We've talked about how to be a disciple in a digital world. We've given lots of resources. We've talked about how to leverage your online platform for good. We've talked about how to avoid some pitfalls online along the way. I'm curious, what would you maybe add to what we've talked about over the last few weeks?
Just the power that the audience really has, you guys interacting with us on church, leaving a comment, hitting like, posting it to your timelines to share. If every one of you shared, let's say, and only one person you follow watched, that would double the viewership, double the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
To reach people and to bring Christ into people's lives. So our mission of bringing every person in the city, which again might be ballooning as a side effect of being online to more people all over the country, all over the world. That really, I don't know how else to say it. It's really owned by our audience. You hit that button, you create an opportunity. It's that simple, and that's hugely powerful. It
is. We have a responsibility, and we have an opportunity to take advantage of by liking, sharing, commenting. As simple as that seems. Yeah. But that could be a very spiritually significant thing for the person on the other end of that share. Absolutely. And what that could mean for them. So we want to make sure we keep doing that. And the last question I have for you, what opportunities do you think are ahead of us as a church? Like if you could say, if you could say to the church as a whole, our church family, there's one thing to remember or one thing to do, what would it be?
Something that's been really important for me in my personal reflection over this last year has been to just reconsider different things. It's easy to say that we're disconnected. I would say reconsider what it means to be connected. This doesn't feel very disconnected, being able to speak with our church directly and have this opportunity to tell my story. I feel really connected to quite a few people. And if you feel that way, hit the like button and it'll help us connect with more people. I would say reconsider that. Reconsider what church means. This is church. For the time being, it'll continue to be church even once we're back in person as well. It'll continue to exist this way. Reconsider what your discipleship and evangelism looks like in this season. I think if you just take a second, as much time as you would take to consider all the negatives this season has had on everyone's lives, I would say just as much time to consider, what opportunities that it's created. And I know I spend a lot of time doing that. I encourage our church to do the same.
Yeah, see, I told you he was positive.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that about him. Rack, thanks so much for sharing some of your story. Man. I've said this before. There's something about hearing someone else's story that always encourages my own. And so I listen to your story and I can see how God, it's so interesting how God just orchestrates things. And we take these windy roads that you look back on, you say, only God could have put all those events in place and brought you to this place. And so, I'm encouraged in my own story because I'm like, yeah, I see that in my life too. And I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. Then also I wanted to say this, I'm so grateful to be able to be a part of what God is doing in your life and this new season for your life spiritually, this new season for your life as a married man, and just all God has ahead for you. So good things ahead, and can't wait to see how God uses you in the future. It's going to be good.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody.
Listen, church, I just want to encourage you, man. I hope you were challenged by some of what you heard today. I hope you were encouraged by some of what you heard today. I hope this series has been meaningful to you. I just want to encourage you. Let's not see this season as an interruption. Let's not see this as a time to kind of sit back and just wait for things to get back to normal. No, this is an opportunity for us to lean in and make the most of the moment that we have. And I think when you do that, that's when you see God do the unexpected things. That's when you see God do what only He could do if you trust Him with these moments. And so let's continue to do that. Let's continue to take some steps forward. And if we'll do that, we'll make a bigger difference in our city than we ever could have if we just did it our way, in our timetable and our specific plan. Let's trust that God's at work even through this, and that we'll see good because of it. So, hey, let me pray and we'll wrap up. God, we love you. We thank you so much that you first loved us. And Lord, I pray you give us the wisdom to know what to do with what we've heard and the courage to do it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Love you guys.